At the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office. This call will be recorded and monitored. Your advance pay account balance is $65.84. For customer assistance, billing inquiries, or to block future calls, dial 1-877-650-4249. To hear the cost of this call, press 8 now. To accept this call, press 5. This call is subject to monitoring and recording. Do not use three-way or call waiting features during this call. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
All right. Yes, sir, brother. Chris asked the question, the Daniel 7 passage about the eagle's wings that are plucked. I do cover that in my book, What on Earth is About to Happen. I do think that the eagle, with the lion with eagle's wings, probably represents England and American alliance. Anglo-American alliance, and we are the eagle, and our wings are going to be plucked. I think you're going to see America become a embarrassed, disgraced financial entity here in the very near future, possibly even this year. We'll see. I think the economy is going to just simply collapse, and the dollar's going to be worth nothing. They print it like wallpaper these days. I mean, it's going to be useless, and it's intentional. Now, does that apply to Daniel, to Revelation 12:14, the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle? Probably. I think America is, it says the lion in Daniel 7, a man's heart's going to be given to it, and it'll stand on its feet. I think at the end times there will be 4 great world powers, and we're seeing the world now divide up into 4 great world powers, and they're listed there in Daniel 7. One of them is just described as a beast, not a particular animal. There's not even a description for it, with 10 horns. I think that's probably the Muslim world empire, Islam. And then Russia, probably the bear with 3 ribs in its mouth. The leopard with 4 wings on its back is probably some kind of Asian alliance. Asian countries, Japan, China, who knows what. But yes, I do think there's a correlation. I think that America is going to be the eagles that's plucked. And then there's going to be enough Christians to have enough influence, enough godly influence to say, hey, let's turn this thing around, let's do something. So I'm very hopeful that there will still be a safe haven in America during the troublous times that are coming. We shall see. Don't know. But that's God's problem. Thank you, brother. What's the next question?
All right, this is Chris's question number 4. Which of the 7
churches... This call is from the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office.
Which of the 7 churches of Revelation do you most identify with?
That's very interesting. Some people take that to great extremes. So Revelation chapter 2 and chapter 3 talk about 7 churches that are actual churches back in Asia, which today is the country of Turkey. My preacher at Bethel Baptist in Pekin used to preach on that quite often. He says there's a practical application. I mean, this was an actual church in each of these messages in Revelation 2 and 3. A practical application to that church. There's also a panoramic application, was what he would say, that it represents 7 different time periods in church history. And we are living today in the last one, called the Laodicean age, from Revelation 3:14. I think there may be something to that. He had 4. There was a practical, a personal application. You can apply it to yourself personally. A panoramic application, and a particular application. And he had a great sermon he preached on that, Lauren Dawson. If you can find his videos on that, or his messages on it. I think his son, James Dawson in Pekin, Illinois, who's a deputy sheriff there, I think he probably continues the gospel tape ministry. When I was working as just a young Christian, they had 10,000 cassette tapes of famous preachers from, Billy Sunday and Spurgeon, and I don't know about Spurgeon. They had all kinds of amazing sermons going way back till the early days of recording that they had preserved. So you can probably check there and see if he still has those. Anyway, answer the question, which one do I identify with? I don't know. I want to. Each of them has some lessons and things we can learn. There's only 1 or 2 that doesn't have anything bad to say about it. These 7 churches, and I don't recall which ones exactly, but I hope God looks at me and says, Kent, you're trying to do what's right. You're trying to keep yourself pure. There are only a few guys in the Bible of which nothing bad is said. Daniel, there's nothing bad said about Daniel or Joseph in Genesis. And I try to keep my testimony clean, where you can't put anything, point anything particular and say, "Wow, you did this wrong." I mean, they accuse me of all kinds of things, that's for sure. So I don't know. I guess maybe Philadelphia, brotherly love. We'll see. Can't answer that question, brother. I'll think about it, though. I appreciate it.
No, very, very good. Chris goes on to write in closing. In closing, he says, "Thanks so much for your friendship, Kent. I'll be praying and fasting for you and Paul. May God smile upon you forever, your brother, Chris." So,
well, you are welcome, Chris. And I don't know if I would be his friend or not, but Rudy, the guy's 43 years old and not married. We have got to find maybe more than 43 now. His sister and husband and 2 kids used to come visit me, and it was just wonderful, wonderful family. But yeah, Chris, we need to run an ad in the paper. I don't know. He's a great guy. In fact, thank you for your friendship, Chris. And don't bring a limo next time. My offerings get cut in half. All right, thank you, brother.
well, now that you've mentioned it, on this recording, maybe like Randall, he'll have some Amish and Mennonite girls writing to him. So.
Yeah, okay.
All right. This letter comes in from another Chris. I don't know if it's the same one. Maybe you'll recognize this or not. It says, "Hey, Brother Rudy, this is Chris from Coplay, Pennsylvania. Can you let Pastor Hovind know the next time you talk to him, we sent him the packet info and pictures of the Science Museum out on Friday. When he has time to let us know when he gets it. I assume he should get it this week. Thank you, Brother Rudy, in Christ, Chris." Maybe that's a different Chris.
It certainly is a different Chris, and yes, I did not get the package yet, but I very much look forward to it. I asked him to go to the Science Museum and take 1 million pictures. When I build one, it's going to be the ultimate on planet Earth, teaching, science and the Bible. So I'm always looking for ideas, and I take the science experiments and science demonstrations and give a spiritual application to them. Most of the museums and science centers in the world have a really cool science, they push this button and watch this blow up or something. And then the kids go, "Oh, wow," and then they walk on to the next one. There's no spiritual application. Like, how does this apply to my life? And I see Jesus all through the Bible, telling, "Hey, look at this, guys. Consider this. Consider the lilies. Consider the ants. Look at the ravens." I think everything in life has not only a neat science lesson, and we ought to go, "Oh, wow, what a mighty God we serve," but it also has a spiritual application to us. You look at Proverbs chapter 30, the 4 things that we're supposed to consider. The spider takes hold with her hands and is in king's houses, just simply won't quit. That's a great lesson there from Proverbs 30, the 4 different animals there. The conies, they're a little rabbit-like animal. They don't fight against the wolf. They go hide in the rock. That's a great lesson every Christian should learn. Don't fight against the devil. Go hide in Jesus. Let him, let the wolf bark and snarl and claw at the rock. Don't let him get a hold of you. Don't try to fight in your own power against Satan. So the Proverbs chapter 30, the 4 different animals that are little but they're exceeding wise, I think is just a really powerful lesson. So I want everything from our dinosaur adventure land to be that way. So to make a short story long, I told Chris, I said, when you go there, take 1 million pictures, and I'll look for ways to have this have a scientific, spiritual application. Okay, thank you, brother.
All right, very good. All right, Pastor Hovind, the next question is anonymous. And Anonymous writes, "Dr. Hovind, how do you think an evolutionist would explain the evolution of desire? In other words, why would the first replicating life form want to live? Where did desire come from? The desire to live, eat, or the desire to do anything?"
Good question. I've often asked evolutionists, why did all of these animals and plants evolve the ability to reproduce, which is only going to raise the competition for food? Why not evolve the ability to live forever? None of them did that. I mean, don't you find that strange? If evolution happened, why did they all evolve the ability to reproduce? And you know how complicated that is? You got to get 2 totally separate organisms with incredibly complex mechanisms to produce the seed and the egg, and you got to get a way to get them together and preserve that. I mean, it's like off the charts, incredibly complicated. Why would this evolve, first of all, and how could it possibly evolve independently? My first debate I ever did with Terry Pruitt, University of West Florida. During the Q&A time, one of the students asked him, he said, "Dr. Pruitt, how did sexual reproduction evolve?" And he said, that is a giant mother may I step in the theory of evolution. That was his answer. It's a mother may I step. I said, you've got to be kidding. You can't really believe that. He does, though. I mean, they don't have an answer. So,
Yeah.
How did desire to live, desire to reproduce, and I don't know. That's a good question. Why would humans, particularly, but why would humans or even other animals have this ability to warn other people of danger? I mean, there are birds that fly up specifically to warn other animals of danger in the area. Okay, why? Why would the male killdeer pretend like his wing is broken and run around the yard, to draw the bobcat after him to get him away from the neck?
This call is from the San Jose County Sheriff's Office.
That's a whole interesting question to ask evolutionists. If it's really survival of the fittest, then none of that stuff should happen. So it's a good question, Anonymous. I don't think the evolutionists have an answer. Christians would say it's real simple. God designed it that way. It doesn't limit our ability to research and find out, all the mechanisms behind it, but it certainly gives us a starting point to do research. So thank you so much for the question.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, Pastor Hovind, given the evolutionist storyline, we had this big earth of soup and mud and chemicals and atmosphere, and then all of a sudden, all of this inert matter that basically did not have any desire whatsoever, things were just operating in a, I guess, what's the word, from a physics perspective, and then all of a sudden we had the first life form that wanted to do something, that wanted to live or wanted to reproduce or wanted to eat, or wanted to get out of the cold into the light. That's quite a different analogy, right? It's like when you have inert material and then all of a sudden you have your first life form that actually wants to do something. It's quite a interesting jump to go from one to the other. So the next question, sir, is from Pankaj, and Pankaj writes, Kent, thank you for your efforts. I had a question in my previous email which was missed. It is about people who have not had a realistic opportunity to even be aware of the gospel, say remote tribes of people, either at present or in past. Would they be judged the same way as those who had an opportunity to accept but rejected the gospel as per the Bible?
Okay, I'm sorry I missed the question. I don't intend to. I try to answer everything I can. No, the Bible says clearly they shall be judged more. Some are judged more harshly than others, depending upon the light that they had. It talks about it being more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah than for Tyre and Sidon, who had the God. He said, if the mighty miracles had been done in Sodom, they would have repented. So people are judged based upon what light they have. Now, the fact that something bad happens because someone doesn't have warning, I don't think you can blame that on God. God has tried. He's tried to give us just through nature. Everybody knows just naturally there must be a God. There's that inert voice that Romans 1 talks about that. There's also the missionaries that go out, there are 4 or 5 different ways God reveals himself. You are conscience. Why would anybody have a conscience? And that's a whole study you can take in a theology class of how God reveals himself to different people groups and different people. Certainly some people have more light than others. I think America is going to be judged very harshly because there are so many churches and preachers and evangelists and, the Bible's all over the place. The truth is, the nation is peppered with it. There's no excuse to not know. Now, other nations where they don't have Bibles or where they have a repressive government or something, they may have, a person from that country under those regimes may not be judged as harshly as a person from here. I mean, God's going to call up somebody from down the street and saying, look, you had this opportunity right here. Why didn't you do it? You saw that sign for that church. Why didn't you stop? You had that Bible sitting on your desk. Why didn't you read it? I think the judgment's going to be much harsher for people who had the opportunity and didn't use it, as opposed to, some pagan tribe with a bone in their nose that doesn't have the gospel. At the same time, God may have sent it to them and they rejected it. We don't know. There's so many movies and stories about that, about missionaries going to areas. And you might want to read the book Eternity in Their Hearts, which kind of deals with that topic a little bit. So the answer to the question is the judgment is differently. Clearly, the Bible says several times it shall be more tolerable. Well, what does that mean? Okay, that means somebody's getting a harsher judgment than others.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
There appear to be levels or degrees of punishment in hell and levels or degrees of rewards in heaven. I think that'd be pretty easy to demonstrate from Scripture. So, if people haven't heard a couple of things, God will judge them according to what light they have. Secondly, why didn't you go tell them? Why don't I go tell them? No, it seems like some of it's going to be our fault. So if you see a hurricane coming and you don't go around and ring the bell and say, hey, look, hurricane's coming, you better do something, or tidal wave or whatever, yeah, maybe it's partly our fault. Okay. All right, hope that helps, brother.
All right, do you have time to call back? If so, I can read you the last question and you can think about it in between.
Okay, sure, yeah, I got time. Nobody up here.
Okay, please let Kent know that my atheist friend on Twitter is 100% convinced of feather-bound dinosaurs that have been found in fossils. More China fossils apparently have been found with feathers. Would like your thoughts, Kent. And if you get a chance to call back, we'll wait to hear your response. Okay, looks like we've lost him. Hopefully he'll call back. I'm not sure how much of the question he heard. And we have 17 days and 22 hours and 25 minutes until his new trial.